Hello, hello. How is everybody doing today on this amazing Wednesday? I don't know about you guys, but the weather outside is spectacular. I got my work in out at the gym. My legs are gonna hurt for the next week, probably. Heavy squats, they'll do that to you. What else? I got to work at the chapel office today. I got to do some DoorDash for a little bit of extra cash. Got to talk to some of my friends. Today's going well. I don't know how you guys are doing, but it's been a pretty good day, all things considered. Yeah, how are all of you guys doing today? You guys have anything crazy cool going on that you guys want to talk about? I got Genesis 26 pulled up right here, story of Isaac and Abimelech later on in Isaac's life. It's one of like the only two stories that we actually get about Isaac like throughout the entire Bible, which is kind of crazy because the Bible is kind of like the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's lineage. So kind of crazy that we only get like two stories about this guy. But yeah, this story doesn't paint him in a super great light. But hey, I mean, if this is the only bad thing he really ever did throughout his whole life, I mean, that's really saying something, man. This guy maybe had some stuff going for him. So, as a catch-up, if you guys missed last night's stream, we talked a lot about, oh gosh, how do I even break this down? Talked a lot about, like, the power of the Holy Spirit, the mystery of its supernatural workings. We talked a lot about like spiritual warfare and demons and exorcisms and speaking in tongues, and like we were all over the place yesterday. It was super fun, honestly. Like I've been really trying to study a lot of that stuff on my own for a very long time now. So it was really fun to be able to talk about that all in chat, because I've been really wanting to study a lot more about like the mysterious and supernatural workings of the Spirit, and being able to talk with that with quite a few of you guys was really fun. And no, that's going to have absolutely nothing to do with our passage today. Genesis 26 is not going to talk at all about the Holy Spirit or demons or supernatural workings or speaking in tongues or any of that stuff. So blank slate, starting somewhere brand new. Well, not brand new. We've been in Genesis for like 25 weeks now or something like that. We've been going over Genesis for a very long time. This is not anything crazy new. Just not what we were talking about yesterday, I guess. Also, so we don't have Evan tonight. Evan usually, I mean, I'm assuming you guys know who Evan is right now, or by now, but Evan's usually the guy who comes and prepares like the message and everything that we get to talk about for the night. All that good stuff. But he is unfortunately working on finals right now. So, or I think it's finals. Anyways, he's finishing up his last couple classes for his degree. He's about to graduate college, and he's taking a couple summer classes to be able to finish up on time. So, yeah, no, he's very busy. So tonight it's just gonna be me and us. And I think there's going to be a couple other people who show up. It's just going to be a little bit later, probably, whenever all of them get here. But, yeah, I think we'll make do without Evan. I think Cole should be coming in a little bit, hopefully. He's always a good one to have around. And, yeah, I mean, I guess I can get straight into it if you guys are ready. So I'll pray us in real quick before we actually get started. So, Father in heaven, thank you so much for today. I thank you so much for being able to gather here, to be able to delve into your word, and to be able to talk about it with this amazing group of people, and everybody who shows up, new and old. I thank you for calling me and my friends to be able to put on this channel, because truly it has been nothing but a blessing to me. Being able to experience people from all across the world who come with all these different traditions and beliefs about these passages, these foundational passages that millions and billions of people across the globe adhere to. It's so awesome to me to be able to talk with people from all around the globe about these topics and to be able to hear what they have to say about them. And I thank you so much for calling us to put this on. It's been truly a blessing to me, and I hope that everybody who shows up in our chat and on our Discord is blessed as well. I pray that tonight, as me and whoever else joins me talk about this passage, that you would fill each of us with your Holy Spirit, that we might speak the things that are pleasing and honoring unto you, and nothing but. I pray that you would use us as your tools for your kingdom here on earth, that we would be part of spreading that here like wildfire in this place that so desperately needs your help, where we're all lost, in need of your guidance, in need of your Spirit to come rest upon us and to guide us. I pray that each and every single one of us here would learn something new about you and be able to go into our week with new insights about how you would love us to live here during our time on this earth. I pray that you will be with us, guiding this conversation through and through. And I pray all of these things in your name. Amen. All right. Oh gosh, we got some people showing up. So Cole, hello. Cole, how's it going today? And S'moreless Graham Cracker, hello. How are you doing today? It's good to see you stop by. Oh wait, Zev, is that you? Did you change your name again? Here, let me swap over real quick to our passage. Here we go. That's much better. But yeah, it's good to see both you guys. How are you guys both doing today? Also, Cole, I want to thank you again for the 3-month subscription. You're awesome. You're amazing. You truly are a blessing to this channel, to me and everyone here. Well, Zev, I did notice, but it is different than your Discord name, so it took me a second. Even if it is just slightly different. Zev, you'll have to tell me the reasoning for that name change. I'm curious. Well, because the last week you showed up, you were still Zev in Twitch. You just weren't Zev, or you just weren't Zev in Discord. So I wasn't expecting you to change your name on Twitch too, I guess. I'm in the barn right now. We just got done driving. Hey, there we go. So you're free for the rest of the night to talk about some Bible stuff. Your girlfriend with you tonight, Cole? Phoenix? Sorry, I still don't know if I know her actual name. I just know her by Phoenix. But yeah, I can get started reading and catch up on chat here in a second, just so we can get started. So this is the story of Isaac and Abimelech. This is later in Isaac's life. So just for some background, to refresh on where we're at currently in this book, this is quite a bit later in Isaac's life. This is after he married Rebekah and after Jacob and Esau are born. This is after Abraham, his father, has passed away. This is after he settled in the lands for himself. And we don't know exactly when this passage takes place, but it's definitely a lot later in his life. I mean, the next passage we get, he's going to be so old that he can't even really see or move properly. So that's to say where we're at currently. This is actually one of like the only 2 stories in Genesis about Isaac, which is kind of crazy because he's like a founding figure, like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their descendants. But this is the second and final story we get strictly about Isaac, actually. Because the last time we saw a story strictly about Isaac and not another member of his family was whenever, his servant went to go get him a wife from Abraham's people. So we got that story of him, and now we're going to get this story that is primarily about him as well. It's a harsh one, but I mean, hey, if this is one of the only like super bad things that Isaac did throughout his life, I mean, he's doing a lot better than the rest of his family, because Jacob and Abraham both get pretty bad stories of things that they did throughout their life. But yeah, so that's some background. I guess I can get into it. So now there was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that had occurred in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went down to Gerar, to King Abimelech of the Philistines. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Settle in the land that I shall show you. Reside in this land as an alien, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and to your descendants I will give all these lands, and I will fulfill the oath that I swore to your father Abraham. I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven, and will give to your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of the earth shall gain blessing for themselves through your offspring. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. So Isaac settled in Gerar. When the men of the place asked him about his wife, he said, "She is my sister," for he was afraid to say, "my wife," thinking, "Or else the men of this place might kill me for the sake of Rebekah, because she is attractive in appearance." When Isaac had been there for a long time, King Abimelech of the Philistines looked out of a window and saw him, referring to Isaac, fondling his wife Rebekah. So Abimelech called for Isaac and said, "So she is your wife then? Why then did you say, 'She is my sister'?" Isaac said to him, "Because I thought I might die because of her." Abimelech said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt upon us." So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, "Whoever touches this man or his wife shall be put to death." Isaac sowed seed in that land, and in the same year reaped 100-fold. The Lord blessed him, and the man became rich. He prospered more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and a great household, so that the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped up and filled with earth all the wells that his father's servants had dug in the days of his father Abraham. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, you have become too powerful for us." So Isaac departed from there and camped in the Wadi Gerar and settled there. Isaac dug again the wells of water that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham, and he gave them the names that his father had given them. But when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there was a well of spring water, the herders of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herders, saying, "The water is ours." So he called the well Ezek, which, let me scroll down, means contention. Because they contended with him. Well, there we go. It's called, the well is called contention because they contended with him. Verse 21, then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also, so he called it Sitnah. What does that mean, quarrel? No, it means enmity. Okay, so that one was called enmity. He moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it, so he called it Rehoboth, which is broad places or room. Interesting. Saying, "Now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." From there he went up to Beersheba, and that very night the Lord appeared to him and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you, and will bless you, and make your offspring numerous for my servant Abraham's sake." So he built an altar there, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. Then Abimelech went to him from Gerar, with Ahuzah his advisor, and Phicol the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you?" They said, "We see plainly that the Lord has been with you, so we say, let there be an oath between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, so that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you, and have done to you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord." So he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths, and Isaac set them on their way, and they departed from him in peace. That same day Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug, and said to him, "We have found water." We called it Sheba. Therefore the name of the city is Sheba to this day. And Sheba means oath. And then we have this weird section down here, these last two verses that don't really fit into this chapter or the next chapter. They're kind of odd, but anyways, verse 34 reads, "When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah." So that's how the chapter ends. So chat, do you guys have any first thoughts about this passage? I'm curious what you guys think about it. I mean, I definitely have some thoughts that I can get into, but what do you guys think about it? I mean, first of all, I guess if you were here for previous weeks, you would know that this is definitely a repeat of Abraham's sin, almost word for word, at least this first part with his wife. The second half seems to be echoing Abraham's promises, or the promises that God gave to Abraham, and how they are also seen in Isaac's life, how he was been prospered for going through with what God has told him to do and living in the land that he promised to him. We see that God gives the same, vision and word of mouth to Isaac that he gave to his father Abraham. And yeah, I think there's quite a bit going on here. It's all kind of one story of Isaac going to this land during the time of the famine, but there's definitely kind of layers to it, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah, but it's pretty cool, I would say. So, I guess we can take it paragraph by paragraph. So we got this first paragraph, right? There was a famine in the land. This seems to be a pretty common theme throughout a lot of the book of Genesis. There's the famine that takes place during the time of Abraham, the famine during the time of Isaac, and then we see the famine during the time of Jacob and Joseph. There's a lot of famines that happen, I guess, during this time. At least one per generation, it seems. Yo, Cole, so what's up? Is there a particular spot where you're lost, Cole? Or is just in general, or... But yeah, let me know where you're lost at. I can help you out. But yeah, so I guess we can take it one paragraph at a time. That should probably help. Plus, there's a lot here, so if we take it one paragraph at a time, we can kind of focus more on specific pieces. So yeah, there's a famine in the land, as we can see. This is, like I said, later on in Isaac's life, after both Jacob and Esau are born, and after Jacob and Esau are a little bit older. So we know from a previous chapter that Isaac didn't get married to Rebekah, I believe, if I'm not wrong, around the time he was about 40 years old. So if he got married to Rebekah about 40 years old, right, so that's 40, then let's say they had kids immediately after that, so maybe 2 years. Isaac or Jacob and Esau are both old enough to be able to go out hunting and to care for. So let's say maybe Jacob and Esau are maybe 20 years old, right? So this is bare minimum whenever Isaac is at least 60 years old, probably older, right? Let's say maybe into his 70s or 80s. This is a guesstimate. We can only take the bits and pieces we get from the narrative so far to be able to construct it. So we kind of have to, figure out some of the pieces on our own. We don't get exact ages for people. But so there's a famine in the land. Isaac's a bit older. He probably wants to be caring for his family and making sure that they all have the food that they need. So he's about to prepare to go to another land, right? Yo, Cole, what's up? Guess what? What's up, man? Well, I guess not only does he prepare to go to another land, but he goes down to Gerar, which is kind of it's from Israel, think southeast, I'm pretty sure, in the Fertile Crescent area, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's where Gerar is, if I remember right. Cole, if you want to do it, man, you're free. We already started a charity goal, so we can't start a second charity goal. We have to wait for the first charity goal to be done before we can start a second one. Isaac is moving, and he settles in Gerar with King Abimelech, and it doesn't clarify, but it seems to me that this King Abimelech is the exact same King Abimelech that Abraham interacted with. So if you remember however many chapters ago, whenever Abraham... it has to be the same King Abimelech, unless if it's a King Abimelech the second. If it doesn't clarify, maybe this is King Abimelech Jr., but it doesn't appear to be that. It appears to be the same King Abimelech that Abraham interacted with. Because you remember, Abraham settled in this land near Gerar. He interacted with this King Abimelech, and during his time there, he prospered a whole bunch because of God's promise to him. And the people there loved him because of all that, he was able to provide for them. This is also when we get the story of Abraham lying to King Abimelech about Sarah, saying that Sarah is his sister instead of being his wife, which, remember, this is exactly what's happening in this passage. Isaac is doing the exact same thing to the exact same person. He's lying about his wife to King Abimelech, which is exactly what Abraham did with his wife to King Abimelech. But this really seems to honestly, this chapter seems to be a repeat of exactly what happened with Abraham whenever he went to Gerar and settled with King Abimelech. Like, the exact same things happen, right? Abraham lied to King Abimelech about his wife being his sister. Isaac comes down and he lies to King Abimelech about his wife being his sister. During his time there, God prospers him and allows him to get plenty of crops and plenty of animals and plenty of everything, and he prospers the whole land as a result of this. We see that God gives the same promises and visions to Isaac that he gave to Abraham. Plenty of things. Do you know how to play Dixie? I mean, I could look up a tab for it and see if it's possible for me. I mean, I didn't really have a song in mind, but I was going to probably try and pick a song that I do know how to play. Although I could be open to trying something new. But so here's something interesting, right? So, up until this point, we don't think that God has interacted with Isaac previously, right? It's not that God hasn't. It's very possible that God has spoken to Isaac or interacted with him, but we don't get a record of that in the Bible, right? In Genesis so far, the last time that God has spoken to somebody was with Abraham telling Isaac, or God telling Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, right? That's like the last time we get God speaking directly to somebody in the book of Genesis. And it's possible that he has spoken to other people, but in the record of Genesis, that's the last time we hear from him, right? So it's very possible that God has not spoken to Isaac at all up until this point. It's very, very possible. And I am inclined to believe that it is the case because in this point right here, right, the Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, settle in the land that I shall show you. Reside in this land as an alien, and I will be with you and will bless you. For to you and your descendants I will give these lands, and I will fulfill the oath that I swore to your father Abraham." Right? And then he repeats the same promise, saying, "I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven, and give to your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, shall gain blessing for themselves through your offspring, because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." From the way that God words this to Isaac, it makes it seem like God has not spoken to Isaac before. It makes it seem like God is actually telling Isaac in this moment, "Oh, this is what I promised to your dad. Let me tell you about it now." Like, it seems like these are things that God has not told Isaac before. It seems like this is new information to Isaac. Like, "Oh yeah, actually, you're going to receive this promise that I gave to your dad, and you're going to have numerous offspring, and the nations of the world are going to be blessed because of you. Just go to this land that I have called you to live in," right? Keep in mind, 26:3, reside as a foreigner. This is important to explain something later involving what? Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, Abraham was also a foreigner in this land. Like, we hear throughout the stories that Abraham is residing in this land as an alien as well, right? And despite him being an alien, the people clearly accepted him as one of their own, and even put them above many of their own, because God had prospered Abraham so much during his time in this land that, his blessings overflowed to the other people of the land and let them prosper as well, right? And it seems that God wants to do the exact same thing through Isaac to this same group of people. Because remember, this King Abimelech of Gerar seems to be the exact same King Abimelech that Abraham spoke with, right? So yeah, we get, right here, God interacting with Isaac and telling him the same things that he told his father, right? "I will make your offspring numerous as the stars. I will give this land to your offspring. The nations of the world will be blessed." All that good stuff, right? So Isaac settled in Gerar. New paragraph here, new thought process, right? And this is the paragraph where we get about Isaac committing the same fault as his dad, right? As we were just saying, Abraham did this exact same thing. Abraham went to this land and he thought his wife would be too attractive and that the men might want to try and take her from them, or from him, I guess. And Isaac thinks the exact same thing. He thinks, my wife Rebecca is too attractive, and these men are going to try and kill me and take her from me. Right? That's what he's thinking in this moment. So he lies to the king and says that his wife is actually his sister. Right? This is exactly the same thing as Abraham did just a couple chapters ago. The exact same thing. And it's to the exact same king, too. King Abimelech is the exact same king that Abraham lied to about this, right? And we see this. Luckily, King Abimelech apparently learned his lesson, right? Because the last time King Abimelech tried to take Sarah as his wife, and it wasn't until God intervened that stopped him, it appears that King Abimelech did not make the same mistake of trying to take Rebecca, because he doesn't actually do anything. It's just that he sees Isaac with his wife, right? Isaac had been there a long time. King Abimelech of the Philistines looked out a window and saw him fondling his wife Sarah, right? So he calls him out in the same way that he called out Abraham. He calls out Isaac and he says, why did you lie to me and say that she was your sister? And Isaac says to him the exact same excuse that Abraham did. And he says, because I thought I might die because of her. In other words, saying that he thought the men of the land were going to kill him and take his wife, right? Abimelech says, what is it that you have done to us? One of the people might easily have lain with your wife and would have brought guilt upon us, right? And that sounds like not that bad. It's just guilt, right? But no, this king already has had God come down to him and speak to him directly saying, yeah, you're going to die because you took this woman. So in his mind, he's thinking, oh my gosh, you're the son of Abraham, that dude that like his God threatened to kill me over this exact same thing. Like, you could have absolutely have gotten me or one of my men killed through your lie, right? Like, that's what's going. It's not as simple as just saying, oh, you could have brought in guilt upon us, right? Like, that's saying, no, you could have gotten one of us killed, because this exact same thing happened with your dad when he said this, and I almost got killed as a result. And right, so Abimelech, thinking, I'd say properly, like, this sounds like a harsh thing. So Abimelech warned all the people, saying, whoever touches this man or his wife shall be put to death. That sounds extreme. But remember, like, God spoke to this dude and threatened to kill him previously for this exact same thing. So he's, like, looking out for his people and saying, like, yo, this God doesn't mess around. Like, he will kill you if you touch his wife. Like, he knows from previous experience how serious of a thing this is. Also, Cole, are you still lost? Cole, you still following along, man? I'm trying my best, but I'm not sure. I'm trying my best to break it down, but and chat, that goes for any of you guys, chat. Chat, if there's any point that you want to chat, that you want to like point out anything or like ask a question or anything, please feel free. Like, I want to like try and answer some questions, and like, even if I can't answer some questions, maybe somebody else in chat can answer questions. Like, I know Altus, like, I know you're super knowledgeable about this kind of stuff. You probably know some stuff that I don't know. I probably know some stuff you don't know. Like, we're here to do this like together, to learn together. Like, if you have any questions, like, there are no dumb questions here, truly. Like, I've asked some pretty dumb questions, but I know you guys won't ask any dumb questions. No, really, but that's a joke, but really, truly, I mean that. Like, yeah, exactly. It's an info exchange. This is a Bible study, right? This is a Bible study. We're all here to learn together. That means we can ask questions. I can ask you guys questions. You guys can ask me questions. We can ask each other questions. If you guys have any comments on anything, please feel free. Like, this is a time we can all learn together. So if there's any point where you're not following along, you know, like, go ahead and feel free to point it out. I think I'm back on track, but I'm only half listening. No, you're good, dude. You're good. Don't worry about it. Honestly, Cole, I appreciate you being here regardless, man. I'm glad you are here. So yeah, okay. So second paragraph, we get the exact same story with Isaac as we got with Abraham about him lying about his wife. You know, all that good stuff. So next paragraph. Isaac sowed seed in that land, and in the same year reaped 100-fold, because the Lord had blessed him. And the man became rich. He prospered more and more until he became very wealthy. He had possessions of flocks and herds and a great household, so that the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped and filled up all the wells that his father's servants had dug up in the days of his father Abraham. And Abimelech said to Isaac, "Go away from us, you've become too powerful." So this is interesting, right? This first part of the paragraph here, right? This is another, like, just as this last paragraph was an echo of the same fault that Abraham made being repeated by his son Isaac, we see here as well, if you remember from previous chapters, we saw that because God was following what Abraham was following what God wanted of him, God had prospered him a whole bunch, and he gave him so much money and crops and land and cattle and all this stuff. Like God prospered Abraham numerously. He prospered Abraham so numerously that the entire people around him had been blessed as well. So the people of this land and King Abimelech loved Abraham because God had prospered not only Abraham while he was there, but the entire people, right? So we see that this is another echo, right, where Isaac is also blessed just as much as his father was for doing what God wanted. God said, settle in this land, right? And because of that, God has followed up on his promise and he's blessed Isaac a whole bunch, right? So Isaac sowed seed and he reaped 100-fold, and he became rich and he prospered and he became very wealthy, and he had possessions of flocks and herds and a great household, so that even the people of this very land envied him. Like, remember, this is not Isaac's land. This is a foreign land where he's residing as an alien, right? He's an outsider. And even the people of this land, the wealthy people of this land, are jealous of him because God has prospered him so much, right? So, but these next two comments are interesting, right? And I'm not sure if you guys have an answer to this first part, but I definitely don't have an answer to it. It mentions here, the Philistines had filled up all the wells that Abraham's servants had dug up, right? I'm not sure if we know the reasoning for this. I don't know if it was like a war tactic or if it was, like, these are my best guesses. I didn't actually have time to look into this. My best guesses is that maybe they filled them up because it was a war tactic. Maybe they filled them up because they dried and it was a liability. I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys know the reasoning for the Philistines filling up all of the wells. But it seems a little bit odd to me. Verses 15 and 17, he settled, and then what happened? Yeah, so the Philistines had, so Isaac departed from there and camped in the Wadi Gerar and settled there. Yeah, exactly. So because they had been filled up, the original griefing, well, like, okay, so let me give some examples of, like, similar things that happened, right? I don't know if it was this exact time period or shortly after, during the time of the judges, but I believe it was probably around here as well. These people groups were very, very smart whenever it came to war, right? Like, they knew how to destroy a land, right? They knew that you could salt the fields and make them so that crops couldn't grow on them anymore. They knew how to, like, destroy infrastructure so that even after they left, people wouldn't be able to live there anymore. Like, these people were smart, right? And we know that later on, the Philistines are going to become a huge fighting force, right? So, like, the Philistines are the people that they start to fight at the end of the book of Judges. The Philistines are the people group that King Saul fights. The Philistines are the major group that Israel fights during the time of David. The Philistines are a huge military force, right? So it's possible that, you know, this group, the Philistines, knew this kind of stuff, right? And that's why they were filled, although I could be wrong about that. You must be a foreigner, not settle. Only when he lived as a foreigner did his well not get attacked. Oh, so you're saying that this is not a past event. You're saying that this is a present event. You're saying, okay, so whenever I was reading this, I was reading this as previously the Philistines had filled up the wells. You're saying that this is a current thing. Like, the Philistines are filling up his wells because they envied him. Is that what you're saying? Because that's interesting. That's not how I was reading it. But yeah, the original griefing is pretty accurate. I'd say, at least. I mean, either way, whether it's that or the other one, the blessings for him are only if he stays a foreigner. So you're saying up until this point, he's a foreigner, and then from this point on, they start to curse him and do bad things to him because he settles. See, that's interesting. I didn't think of it that way. Say hi to my... Oh, hey, Cole's sister. How's it going today? I'm glad you're here to stop in and join our Bible study, even if just for a couple seconds. I appreciate you. I appreciate all you guys. You guys are awesome. But yeah, welcome. Hello. Okay, you know what? Actually, what you're saying I think makes sense, right? So he had possessions of flocks, and so that the Philistines envied him. So then the Philistines filled up the wells that Abraham had dug, or Abraham's servants had dug. Sorry, I got like something in my eye. So then Abimelech says to him, "Go away from us because you have made him too powerful." I think that makes sense. See, that's not how I was reading it, but I think it makes sense. No, she is not watching. I am just in the same room. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Well, I mean, she's welcome to join in if she wants to. If you want to put it on speaker and let her hear, or if she wants to join in, she's welcome. Everybody's welcome here. But yeah, no, I find that really interesting, actually. Also, Dietrich, you're gonna have to tell Kirsten that she's missing out on some banger Pokemon. There was a Sinistea, which I looked that one up. It's like a teapot that's possessed by a ghost. So that one's pretty cool. Murkrow is kind of like a crow that has like a mobster hat on. It's kind of cool too. Gotta tell Kirsten she's missing out on a whole bunch of good ones. But yeah, okay, so actually, you know what? I think I'm going to take that. I think that makes more sense than what I was thinking about it. So I guess we'll go into the next paragraph thinking how you talked about this one, I think. So I guess that makes sense, right? So God blessed him. He had so many possessions that the people of the land envied him. So the people filled up all the wells that his father had dug, and they told him to go away because he was too powerful for them, right? They probably saw him as a challenger that wanted to take the land or something. Anyways, so King Abimelech tells Isaac to leave, so Isaac departs from there and camps in the Wadi Gerar, which I don't know where that is, but I'm assuming it's also probably near the Fertile Crescent. And here, Isaac dug, again, wells of water that had been dug in the days of his father, right? I'm not sure if that means that these are the same wells that his father had dug, or if it's the same type of wells in a new area. It doesn't seem to be specified. I'm assuming, since this is a different area, that it's probably just that he's digging the same type of wells. Or actually, no, I guess it wouldn't be, because then for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. Oh, yeah, okay, so, sorry, I'm all over the place right now. Let me rein in a second. So, Altus, this right here is why I was thinking up here that it was referring to a past event, right? Because here it says that the Philistines filled up the wells after the death of Abraham, which we know was quite a while ago, right? So I was assuming up here that this was a past event saying previously they had filled up all the wells that his father had dug up. You see what I'm saying? That was why I was kind of viewing it like that. But maybe this is a both and situation. I guess it's possible that both the wells of the Wadi Gerar were filled up after the death of Abraham, and the wells at Gerar were filled up as Isaac was kicked out. Like, it could be a both and that's very possible. But I guess it's kind of hard to tell. Honestly, I wonder if my commentary says anything on that. Also, Dietrich, you're welcome to join in on the Discord call. You or Kirsten or Gavin or whoever, because I don't have Evan with me today. Actually, chat. I'll say again for anybody who wasn't here originally. Evan is finishing up his last couple classes for college, which is pretty cool. He, I believe this is the last 2 weeks for his classes, and then he is going to graduate from college, which is pretty cool. So that's why he's not here right now. He's studying for his finals. But he should be here again either next week or the week after that, after he's done with his classes. But yeah, if you guys want to, please be praying for Evan, because he's been working on this degree for a while now, and I know he's very excited to be done and get on with, you know, whatever it is that he's going to get up to afterwards. So be praying for that guy. So
Did Dietrich just join the same time I did?
He's just flexing on us with his ability to finish school, Logan. I don't think that's fair.
that's true. He is kind of rubbing it in your face. And he started a year after you, too.
Dude, yours too. You're still in school.
Yeah, but I'm for a master's program. No, I'm kidding.
I'm
not.
mastering the art of staying in school my whole life.
Dude, apparently that's what they call master's students, is they just call them people who are going to be stuck in school their whole life. And honestly, I feel that because I'm not graduating until I'm like 26 or 27. I don't want to talk about it. Okay, so what verses are these? So verse 15 is the first one. He opened the wells that his father had digged. Oh man, that's some old English. Sometimes I forget how old this commentary is. Note, in our searches for truth, that fountain of living water, it is good to make use of the discoveries of former ages which have been clouded by the corruptions of later times. Inquire for the old way, the wells which our father digged, which the adversaries of truth have stopped up. Dude, the old English in this book is so cool sometimes. His servants dug new well. Okay, so this is verse 19. So this is when he's digging new wells. Oh wait, so where's verse 15 then in this commentary? For some reason I'm not seeing it. He had a great store of servants whom he employed and maintained. The token of the Philistines' ill will to him, they envied him. His bad principle indeed, which makes men grieve at the good of others, as if it must needs be ill with me, because it is well for my neighbor, because they had not flocks of their own to water at the wells, they would not leave them for the use of others. So absurd a thing is malice. The king of Gerar began to look upon him with a jealous eye. Isaac's house was like a court, and therefore he must go further off. A wise and a good man will rather retire into obscurity, like Isaac here into a valley, than sit high to be the butt of envy and ill will. His constancy and continuance in his business still. Does it not read so cool in this commentary? It's like, I think it's like an 1800s commentary originally. I got it for free because it wasn't able to, it was a professor's commentary that they used for research, but it was out of date, so they couldn't use it anymore, so they gave it to me for free. So it's pretty cool. It just reads so interestingly. So yeah, so Altus, it sounds like you were right. It sounds like this here is a current event, right? So the Philistines filled up the wells that Abraham had dug because they envied Isaac and they told him to leave, right? And it makes sense too, because like you had said, he was meant to reside here, like God had said, but I believe, where did it say? He had and a great household. So it seems that he like actually had fully settled here, which wasn't part of God's plan. So that, like you were saying, that seems to be the point of why he's being punished here, is part of a result of him kind of inadvertently going against what God had wanted, but not like entirely. I don't know, I'm glad you pointed that out though, because that's not how I would have thought of it originally, and I think you are right on that. But then it keeps going. He opened the wells that his father had dug. So it seems to be saying that these wells were also filled up currently, so he was just now digging them out again, which is interesting. Sorry, you guys kind of joined at a weird point where like we were going over some really interesting things a little bit ago about God coming and speaking directly to Isaac and giving him a promise that he gave Abraham, and then we talked about him lying to the people about his wife being his sister and stuff like that. Now you're in the him digging wells awkward part. It's like Moses striking the rock. He's told to speak to it only, yet he speaks and strikes it. It's just a slight deviation from the instruction, but for oh gosh, I don't know that word. You're gonna have to, oh, for a right, okay, so it was a typo. Never mind. I thought you were using like some special word. It is just a my bad. You're good. But for a righteous man, it has huge impacts. Yeah, exactly. Like, this was actually something ooh, actually, I don't know if I want to go into that right now. You know what? I'll say it. This was something I used pretty recently in a conversation with someone. I was talking with somebody. This was probably a while ago at this point, maybe like 6 months or something, I think. I was talking with somebody, and they were talking about like, oh well, you know, we as humans were destined to live in sin every single day, and there's nothing we can do about it because we're just wicked people. And the beauty of the gospel is that despite us living in sin every day, that like God still loves us and saves us. And like, yes, that's true, but I would make a nuance to it in that we don't have to live in sin every day. Like, the idea that we have to live in sin every day and we can't become better, right? Because that was the exact example I used, was this idea that we have examples from the Bible, like Moses and Abraham and Isaac, of people who were so righteous that whenever they make such a simple mistake as hitting a rock a second time or settling in a land that they were told to just reside in becomes their major downfall. It's like, these people clearly weren't living terrible lives where they were in sin every single day if that was the thing they're remembered for as their downfall. And it's like, to me, I guess it's kind of like, yeah, like, we are wicked and we're sinful and we're fallen, and the point is that God does come to save us despite our sin. But I see it as like, well, as a Christian, it's like, why wouldn't we pray that the Holy Spirit would reprove our hearts and make us better? Because obviously, like, we ourselves can't become better human beings. Like, we have to have faith and pray to God that He will work in our hearts and in our minds to make us better, right? In the same way that we're saved by faith, we're made holy through faith, right? So that was like the exact same story that I used, right? And like you were saying, it fits in here too. Like, Isaac, he's following what God wants of him. God told him to settle in this land and to be with these people instead of going to Egypt. So he prospered him because of it. But then he instead of just residing here, he makes a great household and he settles here, which is not what God wanted. And even though it's a slight deviation, it's a problem, right? And like, in the same way, that's why I used that example with that person. I was like, well, yeah, that you're right, but shouldn't we want better than that? And I know that's very loosely connected to this passage, but it was interesting you made that same connection with Isaac. Oh, it's Hebrew. Oh, so it wasn't a... So Zadok is Hebrew for righteous man? I just use Hebrew-English mix a lot. I'm writing up notes in transliterated Hebrew right now, and it crossed over. Oh, you're good. Even Zaraat, divine leprosy, only affected the righteous ones within Scripture. It was due to a righteous person speaking against someone with a baseless grudge. Moses second guesses God, saying, the Israelites won't believe me. He is given the sign of leprosy of his hand temporarily, and Miriam the prophetess speaks against Moses and is afflicted. Yeah, I mean, we just saw that a couple chapters ago with Abraham, right? Like, Abraham questioned God's promise, right? And as a result, bad things happen. Like God says, you're gonna have a son in your old age, and he laughs, and it's like, oh, that's not good. Like it's a temporary thing, but yeah, exactly.
Heyo, I'm here now.
Oh, hey, dude, how's it going?
Literally just finally been able to sit down.
You know what? I'm gonna test my Hebrew skill. Give me a sticky note. I'm gonna see if I can write that in Hebrew, that word.
As soon
And I'm
as
gonna
I
see
turn off your stream, where you're going to write Hebrew.
So Altus gave me a Hebrew word, or he gave me two of them, Zadik and Zaraat. And I'm gonna see if I can write those in Hebrew. Because I feel like I'm getting to a point where I could maybe do that. Well, there's two different letters for T. So it's kind of hard for me to tell which one it is. Actually, let me write those both down for you guys. So there's this T, which is kind of like a U with a like little dalet on the end of it. And then there's this T. And this T actually has two variations as well. There's the T with a dot and the T without a dot, right? Oh, wait, so you're using TS. So there is a fourth one then. So what, that's oh gosh, how do you write that? This one. Well, I guess this one there's different ways where it's written. So, chat, Hebrew lesson, real quick. So, I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me get a little bit closer. There we go. This U on the left with the little apostrophe on the end, that's T. Then there's this N looking thing with the little ends thing, right? This one and this one. There's two different variations. There's a variation with the dot in the middle and the variation without the dot in the middle. Those both are T. And then there's this one which looks like a Y with a little end on it. That one is tus, like TS. It's odd. And there's like 3 different letters that make a K. But it's more like it's not a K. It's like a guttural K. Like a bak. Like that kinda is how they sound it out. There's the one that looks like a P. That one makes a K sound. And then there's the one that looks like a backwards C with a dot or without a dot. So that's 3. And then I feel like there's another one that makes a K sound, but I kind of forget right now. I swear I'm better at Hebrew than I look. Anyways, okay, I won't take up any more time with Hebrew because I don't think you guys actually are enjoying that as much as I am. Anyways. Dalet. Kof. Okay, so it's the TS, the dalet, and then the cough. Oh, really? And then I'm guessing the vowel sound. So it would be underneath the TS, it would be the vowel for like the line, and then with the dalet, is it a dalet with a what's it called? Is it a dalet with the dot on it to extend it? So da, you know what I'm saying? So sadi, is it sad-di, like 2D sound? And then cough being the K at the end. And then the D would also have or is it zadik? Because if it's with an I, their I's sound more like E than I. So would it be zadik? Yeah, okay, apparently I had it right. Zadik. Yeah, their I's make an E sound. Like a machine, for instance. Like the I in machine is like an E, not an I. So that's how they pronounce their I's, is E. I don't have my Hebrew keyboard on me. Dude, I don't have a Hebrew keyboard. Although, I added a Hebrew keyboard to my iPhone, so I can type for like Quizlet and stuff. I'm sorry, chat. I find this Hebrew stuff really interesting because I'm learning it right now, but I feel like you guys probably don't, so I'll leave it behind.
Hey, Logan.
What's up?
If you go to the settings on your computer, you can get a Hebrew keyboard on your computer. You type with your normal keyboard, but it'll show up as Hebrew.
Interesting. Well, I
I
wonder
did
how
that-
that would I wonder how that would work then, because not all of the English letters translate to a Hebrew letter, and some of the
Well-
English letters have. So like, for instance, there's no. Oh gosh, what sounds aren't in? Well, there's no X sound in Hebrew. They don't have like an X sounding letter.
well,
But they
I can
also
tell you-
have like 4 letters for T. They have like 3 letters for K, like K. So I wonder how that would work.
I don't know, but I can say that I have on my computers. I usually have English, Greek, and Icelandic.
Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to learn Greek at some point. That's gonna be miserable. I'm not
Well,
looking forward to that.
I have Greek. I have only the only reason I have Greek keyboard is because of math. Because of school and having to have Greek symbols.
That's fair.
And Icelandic. I only have Icelandic because I like using Thorn
That's
in
fair.
in personal writing. So
Yeah, I mean, chat, like, if you guys are, like, Cole, I know you said you were interested in Altus. I feel like you might have been as well. I would still do Hebrew study sessions, although I am very far in now, and it might be hard to, like, be alongside you guys if I'm as far ahead as I am. Like, I have, dude, not only do I have the alphabet and the vowels and, like, all these different forms of the language figured out now, but I have like, oh gosh, how many words do I have memorized at this point? Like almost 200 words. It's ridiculous how much I have to know for these quizzes. It's absolutely insane. Like, this class is fast. Like, I really have to learn the Hebrew language in like 12 weeks. It's insane how fast this class is going. Oh yeah, so Dietrich and Gavin, you guys are still here, right? Whenever I was home,
Yeah.
like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't even know the alphabet yet. Oh, I am way farther than that now. This class,
You're zooming.
you have to learn stuff so unbelievably fast. It is incredible. Like, it's hard. Gotta go drop off the wife, be back in 10 if you're around. Yeah, we'll be around for a little while longer. Hebrew studies are also difficult when it comes to learning new dialects too. Are you learning... Oh gosh, honestly, I don't know. I honestly don't know which dialect I'm learning. Whichever one is the closest to the biblical Hebrew is the one that I'm learning. Because it's the book that I'm learning is not learning Hebrew, it's learning biblical Hebrew is the name of the book. So it's specifically the Hebrew dialect of the Bible. Because it's like technically modern Hebrew is different than like ancient Hebrew. Like, yeah. Like, do you say Torah or Toira? Definitely the first one. At least I'm pretty sure that's how they say it in the... I mean, I haven't used that specific word yet in my studies, but based on... Yeah, I haven't used the word Torah yet specifically in my studies, but I'm assuming it would be said Torah because it's a lot more guttural. There's a lot less of the, like, oi, a, stuff like that. Yeah, it's a lot like gravelly, ka, like that kind of, like, think German, that kind of type. I still have a lot of problem with it because, like, you guys are gonna laugh at this, I know you are. Like, the R's are kind of like really hard and like kind of roll a little bit, but not like Latin American roll. It's like a ruh, like think of saying R with the back of your throat, like ruh. And then like the ka cha is like ka ha. Like even the H's are like ha. It's like very guttural, very gravelly kind of speaking. So I don't know if like all the Hebrew dialects are like that, but the one that I'm learning at least is very gravelly and guttural. Actually, I need to take a swig of water after that. But yeah, okay, so we have so what do we got next? So we were talking about the wells. I guess we're still going to be talking about the wells. We just got to so recap, Isaac departed from there and camped in the Wadi Gerar and settled there. He dug up the wells that had been dug in the days of his father Abraham, for the Philistines had filled them up. after his father's death, and he gave them the names that his father had given them. Which is interesting. I wonder how Isaac knew the names of these wells or where they were located. Like, I wonder if there was a period of time where Isaac was living with Abraham in this land. I mean, I guess it's very possible. Well, actually, I don't know, because the last time we heard about Abraham in this land was whenever he lied about Sarah being his wife. And if I remember right, I believe Sarah was pregnant with Isaac during that trip. So maybe, I don't know, I guess it's possible we have an untold story, like an untold portion of Isaac's life where he lived with Abraham in this land, but it is interesting that he would know where they were at and what they were named. Unless if he had maybe lived there for a little bit. Oh yeah, so up here we didn't have it listed that Isaac also had servants. But here we see, but when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a spring of water. So Isaac also had plenty of servants, just like his father did. Abraham had tons of female and male servants. We know that he got a lot of them during his time in Egypt. He got some from, I believe, from a king Abimelech. I mean, Hagar, like you guys know Hagar, or I guess if you don't, Hagar was Sarah's Egyptian slave that Abraham had his son Ishmael with, and then, you know, there's the whole story about Hagar and Ishmael were kicked out, and God met Hagar and gave her water so that they could live and make it back to Egypt. So Abraham had a bunch of male and female servants, and we see here Isaac apparently does as well. But we also know that Abraham treated his servants very, very well. So I assume Isaac would have done the same. Yo, Josh, is that you? Josh, how's it going, man? It's good to see you. You here to talk about Isaac lying about his wife? Yo, Gavin, Dietrich, say hi to Josh.
Josh who?
Hi, Josh.
I can't really say his last name. Josh,
Hello.
Caleb's brother.
Oh.
Yeah,
What's
I mean,
up?
I assume it's him. I think that's his username. I'll join Discord and mute and listen. Okay, dude, yeah, absolutely, man. Everybody's here. Welcome to listen to Bible study, man. It's good to see you stop by. Speaking of, there was somebody else that I knew who was supposed to be stopping by today. I might have to message them real quick. Actually, yeah, let me do that. Guys, entertain them while I'm gone for a second. Teacher, do you have any interesting points of conversation to keep people distracted?
I did flow rate calculations today to figure out how fast water would flow and design a cooling system thing.
Oh?
Yeah, it was super interesting.
I bet.
Yeah, I had a volumetric flow rate and I had to get it into linear feet a second and keep it between 10 and 20, because if it's below 10, the water starts to heat up and turn to steam, and if it's much more than 20, then it doesn't carry enough heat with it.
Oh gosh.
So, and it creates like turbulence and like cuts corners and yeah.
Which class was this for?
No, this was for work.
Oh, this was for work. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I'm actually, when I go up to Erie this weekend, I'm bringing one of my books back for weld calculations and stuff.
Huh?
Yeah.
Dude, see, this is what I'm talking about, man. You come here and you get all kinds of different information. Like, I can talk all about this stuff here that we're reading about, but I can't tell you nothing about, like, all these things that these guys know about. These guys freaking blow me away with the things that they talk about. Come here and learn everything. All right, so what do we got now? So we're talking about Isaac's servants. He dug up the well, found a well of spring water. The herders of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herders, saying the water is ours. So he called the well Esek, which is because they contended with him. Esek meaning contended, or a contention. Yeah, contention. And then they dug another well. They quarreled over that one, so it was called Sitna because that means enmity. He moved there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it, so it was called Rehoboth, which is broad places or room. Saying, now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. Right? So this is oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit the mic. So this is going back to what we heard earlier, right? God promised that not only would he bless Isaac and his offspring if he followed his commands, but he would also bless the surrounding nations as well through him, right? That's what we heard all the way back whenever God promised these things to Abraham. We're seeing it here again with Isaac. And, you know, we haven't heard this specific thing yet. But, like, for example, whenever we get to Moses and him leading the Israelites out of Egypt, we get a very similar promise to the Israelites, right? God says, if you follow my commands, I will bless you. And all of the other nations who bless you, I will bless. And all the other nations who curse you, I will curse. And we haven't heard that specific portion yet, the bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. But we have seen this idea that other lands will be blessed through you, right? So it seems pretty clear that even though Isaac was being prospered, right, these other people in the land weren't being prospered because they're fighting over wells of water. And most certainly, to me at least, that seems it's because they are kicking out Isaac and filling up his father's wells and mistreating him. So God isn't, like, giving them what they need. But now, here we see at the end of this one, right? They're taking the other wells. But here, he moved there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. And it seems that that was a good thing because Isaac says, now the Lord has made room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land. In a way, he's saying, because we're not quarreling over this, God seems to have blessed us as a result of that, and now we can all be fruitful in the land because we're getting along. Which is pretty cool. Like, it's not, like, directly said, but it's pretty much inferred by this last portion that that's what's going on. And like we were saying earlier, right, this first part of the chapter, right, whenever God speaks to him to go to Gerar and not settle in Egypt, it seems that this is the first time that God has ever spoken to Isaac, right, which is surprising because it's pretty late in his life. And here we see the second time that God appears to him, at least from the biblical narrative. So from here, he goes up to Beersheba. And that very night, the Lord appeared to him and said, I am the God of your father Abraham. So for clarification, this seems a bit odd, but I'll explain a cultural thing, right? And Altus, you might already know about this, and you might actually be able to speak more on it than I can. But from my understanding of, like, the culture in the Middle East during this time period, different gods were known through father figures. So, for instance, all of these foreign pagan gods were known as blank, the god of your father blank, right? Like, it wasn't like, oh, our tribe or our nation. I mean, I guess with exception, like, you have Egypt who worships Ma'at and Ra, and then they have their mythology. But other than that, it was more often than not tribal or family gods, right? So you would see more often than not, like, our tribe or our family's god is this, who interacts with our father figure, right? So that is why this would have been like a way of culturally speaking with Isaac. He's identifying himself with the father of his family, right? I am the God of your father Abraham. So this is how God is identifying himself. God is identifying himself in the same way that other people groups would have identified their gods, right? And this seems like, oh, well, that, like, God's different than the other gods of the time, which, yes, is true, but it's also true, reading over these manuscripts, that God interacts with the people in ways that they understand, right? So let's go back to Genesis 12 a couple months ago whenever we talked about God, or I think it was Genesis 15 actually, when God appears to Abraham and makes his covenant with him. We know now that that covenant was in the format of a suzerain vassal treaty, which was a treaty that kings would make with lower people groups. The suzerain being the king and the vassals being the lower people groups. And it was essentially a treaty between a higher power and lower powers, where the lower powers would give tithes and people, or like more specifically men. They would tithe men for war and money and food to the higher power, and in return the higher power would protect the lower people group from outside forces. Which sounds exactly, and okay, I guess I should clarify further. They had a very specific format, these suzerain vassal treaties. They would introduce the different people groups, then they would say their history together, then there would be stipulations, and then there would be binding by blood, right? So, for instance, whenever we see Abraham make the covenant with God, right? Abraham and God's covenant, we see God come down and he introduces himself as the God who brought you out of the land that you came from and who has prospered you. And then introducing Abraham, right? So it's introducing the parties, and then it is clarifying their history together, and then there's the stipulations that you do these things and I will bless you in these ways. And then there's the blinding by blood where they cut the animals in half and they walk through them, right? I guess that's a really long way of saying, like, God interacts with these people in ways that they understand, right? So in this way, I am the God of your father Abraham, right? He's introducing himself in the way that gods would have been known back then. You know, this God is the God of my father that I still worship, right? Anyways, long cultural thing aside. Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you and make your offspring numerous for my servant Abraham's sake. Right? This is all that we get from God. This is it. Just this sentence. I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you and will bless you and make your offspring numerous for my servant Abraham's sake. That's it. That's the whole vision. And this is the second time he's said this now, because before he moved to Gerar, he said the exact same thing. I will make your offspring as numerous as the stars of heaven, and I will give to your offspring all these lands, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed for themselves through your offspring. So God says it twice to Isaac in this passage, which is funny because God says this promise to Abraham like 8 times too. So God is like constantly reminding these people of his promise to them and how he's going to fulfill it. Like he comes to Abraham in chapter 12 and he says, if you go to this land, then I will bless you and prosper you and give you these things. And then he comes back to him in Genesis 15 and he says, I will make your name great and give you a great land and make you your offspring numerous. And then he says it again, and then he says it again. And like he keeps going back to Abraham and saying it, and now he said it to Isaac here twice as well. So he's like constantly coming back and reminding them about these things, right? Which is kind of interesting. Like God didn't have to do that here, right? He didn't have to come to Isaac and say this, but he's almost giving him reassurance that he is with him, right? He's almost like coming to Isaac and reassuring him and saying, listen, I am still with you and I am still going to fulfill my promise, so there's no reason for you to worry. Because remember, he was prosperous in this land until King Abimelech and the people kicked him out, and now he's like struggling trying to dig up these wells, right? And now he's moving to another new land, into Beersheba, so he's moving again, right? And he's probably worried for his wife and his 2 sons, right? He's like, I have a wife and 2 sons that I have to take care of, and all of these servants, like, what, like, and he's probably worried, and now God's here reassuring him, right? And as a response, Isaac responds back to God, and he builds an altar there, and he calls on the name of the Lord, and he pitches his tent there. And there, Isaac's servants dug a well. That's his response. It's short, it's sweet, it's simple, it gets the point across, right? In the same way that God's response, or in the same way that God speaking to Isaac was short and sweet, in the same way, Isaac builds an altar, calls on his name, and pitches his tent, and there he digs a well. Short, sweet, and simple. And then we get this last big paragraph, and this is the last, major part we get of Isaac's story. I mean, we're still going to see Isaac again whenever, like, we're going to see the story with Jacob and Esau and selling the birthright, and then, like, Jacob goes in and steals the birthright from Esau, from his father Isaac. Like, we're still going to see that, but that's more Jacob's story than it is Isaac's story. This is really the last part where we see Isaac's, like, Isaac being the main character, I guess, to put it in a weird way. So here, then Abimelech went to him from Gerar with Ahuzah, his advisor, and Phicol, the commander of his army. Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me, seeing that you hate me and have sent me away from you?" Right? So here we see, like, apparently they haven't interacted since Abimelech kicked him out. Abimelech said, "You're too powerful. I want you out of here." And he kicked him out. And then Abimelech comes with these people. And Isaac says to him, "Why have you come to me? You hate me and you sent me away." And then Abimelech and his advisor and his commander respond, "We see plainly that the Lord has been with you. So we say, let there be an oath between you and us, and let us make a covenant with you, so that you will do us no harm, just as we have not touched you, and have done to you nothing but good, and have sent you away in peace. You are now the blessed of the Lord." So they made a feast, and they ate and drank. In the morning they rose early and exchanged oaths, and Isaac set them on their way, and they parted from him in peace. That same day Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug, and said to him, "We have found the water." He called it Sheba, which is well of the oath, or well of seven. And if you don't know, in Hebrew or Israelite culture, the number 7 symbolized completeness. So whenever they used the number 7, it was a symbol meaning complete in their mind. So he called it Sheba, therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day, right? Which is interesting, right? Because Beersheba has been a term that has been used to describe this land ever since, like, Genesis 12 with Abraham, and just now we're seeing why it is called Beersheba all this time later in chapter 26, like well after Abraham lived his 200-year life and well after Isaac has lived like 80 years. Now we're just now seeing why this land is called Beersheba, which is really interesting, because we've heard of it this whole time and had no idea why it was called that. But it seems here, I mean, at least to me, like, so they make a covenant, assuming that this is exactly the same as the type of covenant I was just describing with the suzerain vassal treaty. I mean, maybe it wasn't like a suzerain vassal treaty where there's a higher power and a lower power, but it's possible, right? So they, like, let's say that this was a suzerain vassal treaty, right? Then they would have come to Isaac and seen him as the higher power, and they would have wanted to make a covenant with him so that he would protect them and bless them as a lower power, right? Because it is clear that they come to him, right? And they make it clear, like, you are powerful, God is with you, and we want to be blessed by him in the same way that you have. So it seems in a way that this could have been a suzerain vassal treaty, that this covenant that they're making with him. And even if it's not, either way, they still recognize Yahweh, God, like the God of Abraham, as a super powerful being that has blessed Isaac and that they want to also be blessed by, right? And it's clear that God seems to respect it, because in this same day, Isaac's servants came and told him about the well that they had dug up, and say that they have found water. It seems that God has blessed this covenant, he has blessed this peace treaty, in the same way that God had blessed Abimelech and his people previously, whenever Abraham was alive and he had lived there. It seems that the same thing, God respects this covenant, and this wouldn't be the first time either. I mean, we see plenty of times throughout the Old Testament where God is accepting these foreign people and people groups into the people of Israel, right? Like, let me give some examples. We have Rahab, who was at Jericho. She saved the spies. God accepts her, even though she's a foreigner, into his people. We just had previously, however many chapters ago, Hagar and Ishmael, an Egyptian slave woman, like the worst of the worst in Hebrew culture back then. Foreigner, slave, and woman, right? Like the exact things that Paul talks about being like the 3 things that people look out for whenever they think of outsiders and outcasts. He accepts essentially Hagar and her son into his people and blesses them as well. During the time of Joshua and the Judges, there's plenty of people groups that God allows to join into the nation of Israel people groups that were previously conquered, who say like, hey, like, we want to serve your God now, and they come into the people group as well. Like, it seems that God is, and like, we've talked about this so many times on the channel already. Like, me and Evan, I remember talking about this way back in Genesis 12, whenever Abraham was originally called by God to leave his people. It's very clear that, like, God has always, from the very beginning of this narrative, been for all people groups, not just the Israelite Abrahamic bloodline. Like, he says from Genesis chapter 12 in Abraham's calling that through you will be a blessing to the whole world and bring them to me, right? And, like, this people group, they are not of the Abrahamic bloodline. They are a different people group. And it appears, at least, that, here we go, God blesses their covenant and says, like, sure, yeah, like, I will bless you in the same way that I've blessed Isaac, as long as you treat them fair and, you know, treat them as my called people, then you can also receive the same blessing and inheritance that Isaac has. Orthodox, thankfully, it is typically not as painful to become Christian nowadays. Yeah, that's true. No more of the snip, as you put it. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point, right? Like, we don't have the... Oh, have we had the command of circumcision? Can't remember if that was something that God told to Abraham already or not. I feel like it was, but I can't remember, honest. I mean, I know once we get to the time of Moses, it's going to be a thing. Like, as the sign of the covenant people, that in order to become part of the group, you have to become circumcised as, like, a sign of the people of God. And, of course, we know nowadays that as Christians, we no longer, like, in the words of the Apostle Paul in the pastoral epistles and the general epistles, he talks about it as we no longer do the circumcision of the flesh, we do the circumcision of the heart, which is the renewing of it as the sign that we are part of God's people, right? That was back when Ishmael... Oh, you're right. Yeah, the circumcision was brought up whenever Ishmael was young. Yeah, because God called him to circumcise his sons. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, Abraham started with God. Israel had to keep... Yeah, okay, you're right. It was back then. Thank you, guys. I completely forgot about that. Thank you. I appreciate the help. And that's why we're here studying this together, because you guys could help me whenever I'm missing something, and I can help you guys when you guys are missing something. But yeah, you're right. So circumcision was a thing from the very beginning as the sign of being a part of the group, like, that was called by God. But circumcision, according to Hillel, Gamaliel, Akiva, and Paul, is only for the natural born and the servant. Gentiles who enter the covenant are not the native born or the servant to Israel. As it was in the day of Abraham, it still applies today. Interesting. So you're saying... Well, okay, so I remember how Paul talks about it. He says native, like, ethnic Jews can still become circumcised, but it's not required of Gentiles. And if you don't know, Gentiles is the term for non-Jews. He says that Gentiles coming into the Christian faith do not have to be circumcised. But you're saying that's something that applies to this day, that in Jewish culture and ethnicity... Well, I mean, I guess Jewish really is more culture than ethnicity. You are called to be circumcised, but not if you are a non-Jew. If you do get physically circumcised today due to conversion, then you become a native born. Huh. So, okay, actually, I have a question for you then, right? Because I know you know a lot more about this stuff than I do, since you're studying over there, right? Since you're studying, like, with people who, like, are part of this, right? So, I live here in America, right? And more often than not, we circumcise our children for medical reasons, not for religious reasons, right? Would you say that somebody here in America or anywhere else in the world who was circumcised for medical reasons has become a native born, even if it wasn't for a religious reason? Because now I'm curious, because, like, me and Evan... I wish Evan was here. Evan could talk about it a lot more than I have. Evan would talk about circumcision being something that God called his people to do, not just as a sign of the covenant, but also because we know nowadays that medically speaking, people who are circumcised, or guys who are circumcised, are more healthy than guys who are not. Like, it actually helps medically keep people healthy. And I know this is a really awkward conversation, but I guess it's pertinent to the conversation. The circumcision by doctor is not the same as a mohel circum. Okay. Interesting. That is interesting. See, like, that's why I love having you here to, like, talk about this kind of stuff, because you are way more knowledgeable on this kind of stuff than I am. Way more, like, cultured in this kind of stuff than I am. Which helps out a ton, honestly. You can't just circumcise a baby and make it a native-born. Conversion circumcision is a choice that you have to make. The circumcision of a native-born baby is only because you are already the native-born. So even if it's the choice of the parent to circumcise their child, that makes the child a native-born. Is what you're saying. Huh. I love how you guys are calling it the snip snip. Gosh darn. I mean, it's I guess accurate. I guess it is quite accurate, actually. It's just funny, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Parent has to be Jewish first before their baby can be, and there are lots of rules around it. It gets extremely complicated when children converts are involved. Gotcha. So in the same way that for Christians here in, well, I guess maybe this is a conflict outside of the Western Christianity, but I know it's maybe more pertinent in Western Christianity, is the idea of baptizing babies. I don't know. Is that an issue other places other than Western Christianity? Because I know it's a very pertinent issue in Western Christianity, but I don't know if it's an issue outside of it. Because it's like a huge issue in Western Christianity, at the very least, about baptizing children. Like, there's, like, the Christian tradition for about 1,500 years always baptized children with no, like, fault. Like, that was just how they did it. And then it was about, like, 500-ish years ago that, like, the Anabaptists came along and said, like, no, it needs to be like a belief thing. Like, you can't baptize the children because it has to be a personal belief to become baptized. And then that kind of set off like this whole cascading effect where now today in Western Christianity we talk about, like, can you baptize infants? Can you not baptize infants? And it's like a big thing. Like, some say you can, some say you can't. And, like, you know, I've studied it quite a bit. I can see biblical backing for both of them. I kind of fall more on the believer baptism, but anyways, that's besides the point. So it's kind of like a similar complicated matter, I guess. And just because you get circumcised with the intention to convert fully doesn't mean that it's recognized. If the rabbinic group is invalid, then you have to go through it again. There are lots of false rabbis out there doing it too, which makes it even scary. Well, I mean, we have the same problem in Christianity. We have plenty of false prophets who, well, I guess Paul would call them false prophets. We don't really call them that today. We just call them, I guess, bad pastors and stuff. I don't know. But you don't do full snips each time. If you already have circumcision, then they just do a poke and draw blood. So that's how you would do it Okay, I was wondering about that because you were saying about doing the circumcision twice, and I was curious how that worked. So it's not like, I mean, obviously you can't be circumcised a second time, but like, in a way you can do the ritual a second time, is what you're saying. I mean, that makes sense. I can see it. Most American circumcisions require a poke now because you can't. Yeah, because I was gonna say in America, like a good vast majority of children are circumcised just because medical, like, medically they just do it nowadays here in America. So it's like, yeah, it'd be hard to like do it for Americans since they kind of already are, whether it's religious or not. Yeah, it's an interesting way of like, because for me at least, like I've always been taught, like here at my undergrad and here at seminary and like through a lot of the churches I've gone to, like Paul speaks on like circumcision of the flesh was the way that it was done for the Israelites, but now in the church we have the circumcision of the flesh, which is the new, like is the way that God calls his people nowadays, or it's the way that God's people are recognized nowadays, is not through circumcision of the flesh, but circumcision of the heart, which is the renewing of the heart towards God through the Holy Spirit, kind of a deal. And I've also heard like baptism being part of that as well. Like baptism is also like a sign of becoming part of the quote unquote covenant community of Christians. Not quote unquote, I guess, because it's not what it's called, but in a way it's combining like the covenant community of Israel with like the new covenant community established through Jesus Christ, through the church. Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting conversation to have, even if it is a bit weird at times. Sorry, I'm typing something. Somebody messaged me. Anyways, yeah. So baptism is what Hillel believed to be the only requirement to join Israel for the Gentiles, which is also Gamaliel's view, Paul's mentor. And we also see Paul... Yeah, so Paul taught like a kind of a dual thing. He taught about baptism being the entrance into the Christian community in the same way that circumcision was the entrance into the Israelite community. But Paul also talked a lot about the circumcision of the heart being also part of the replacement of the circumcision of the flesh for Gentiles as well. Yeah. But yeah, this goes into the covenant language also used for Abraham. Through your seed, all nations will be blessed. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly what I was saying, right? Like, ever since the very beginning of this story, God has always been for all people. Like, I feel like a lot of people today make this argument that, like, only Israel was called by God in the Old Testament, and it's like a huge revelation whenever Jesus comes along, because Jesus says that everybody can be accepted by God. Everyone acts like that's such a huge revelation. But like, you can see it all throughout the entire Old Testament narrative, where God is bringing in these outsiders and calling them part of his people. Like, it's all throughout the Old Testament, all the way from Genesis 12, where he's bringing in these other groups of people. Like, I feel like it's always been there. Like, it's always been there that, like, God will use Abraham and his line to bless the entire world. Like, that's always been there in my mind. So it's hard for me to look at it and say, like, oh, yeah, Jesus was, like, this big revelation in now accepting all these people, whenever it really kind of wasn't that, I guess. So through Abraham's seed, all nations will be blessed, and all nations will be immersed in the promised seed. Exactly. Like, that's exactly how Evan would word it. Like, I really wish Evan wasn't working on finals, and I really wish he was here right now to talk about this, because that, like, how you worded it right there is exactly how Evan would word it. Like, he would word it as all nations will be immersed into the seed of Abraham through them going out into the world, right? But you can't just translate it as all nations will be immersed into your seed, because, yeah, you're right. Hebrew to English issues. Dude, honestly, now that I'm actually learning Hebrew, I can absolutely understand the need for so many different English translations, because it is crazy ridiculous how weird it is to translate things from Hebrew to English. Like, it is not even close to one-to-one. Okay, let me give you an example. All right, let me pull up my book. Dude, this chapter... Like, listen, Chapter 9 in this book threw me for the biggest loop I have had yet. Chapter 9 in my Hebrew book, it's about learning about possession, like people possessing items. Like we would say in English, right? For example, I own this, or I have this, right? They just put, it's called a lamed, but it's essentially la. Like you say la, and you add that in front of the person who owns the other object in question, right? So for instance, let me just read this sentence in Hebrew literally. It says, house, or a house, was or is to him, right? This is the most basic example I was given in this book to translate. And it gets even more complicated because they don't have past, present, and future tense. They have one tense that you have to infer from the reading. So this word right here, who, well actually who means he, which makes it even more complicated because the pronoun who or he can also act as the verb was or is. It's really stupid. Anyways, this word, which literally translates to he, in this context means was or is, and you have to infer whether it is a past was or a present is based on the context of the situation. And it literally reads, a house was or is to him. So in English, we would translate that, he has a house, which is completely different. And like, let me give you like one of the examples that like broke my head. Had no idea how to translate it. Okay, so this one. So they also don't have question marks. They have, it looks like it's a ha, like a ha sound that they put in front of the sentence. It's just a letter that they put at the front of the sentence with a little like line and two dots underneath it. And that makes it into a sentence. So this one says, question mark, no covenant me. That's how it literally translates. You want to know how they want me to translate that into English? Do I not have a covenant? It's so dumb. It's so dumb. Like, whenever I wrote that down originally, I just put, I don't have a covenant, which I think would have been a valid way of translating that. But they have, do I not have a, like, so this, to me, makes so much more sense why there's so many different, like, English to Hebrew, or Hebrew to English translations of the Bible, is because it's like, it's not as one-to-one being able to translate it as we think. It's a lot more archaic than our English language. It makes it a lot harder to do it. And this is like very early on in the book. I'm not even like I'm maybe a fifth of the way through this book, maybe. Like, it's gonna get so much more complicated as we go. And even he has a house can also mean he's married. Exactly. And like, woman also means wife. Like, woman and wife are the exact same word. But man is not the same as husband, apparently. It's crazy. Like, whenever it says, like, the woman, it can be either, like, his wife or actually just saying the woman. It's so weird. Anyways. Yeah. So that's to clarify what you were saying. Yeah, it's a lot, like, whenever you translate stuff like that we're just talking about right now, talking about, like, circumcision and, like, how the nations will be blessed through his seed, like, it's a lot harder to translate than just... And both instances could be true at the same time, like, baraka and bareka, meaning you will be blessed, and also you will be baptized in his name. Wait, so do the Hebrew actually have a word for baptized? Like the old Hebrew? That's it, because I didn't think that... Because they didn't have baptism during the time of the Old Testament. Oh, immersed. Okay, yeah, that makes sense that they would have a word for immersed. Yeah, no, I get that. Mikvah is baptism. Wait, actually, I knew that. I knew Mikvah was baptism. I heard that like in a sermon like however long ago. At least I feel like I did. I've definitely heard Mikvah before. I have 100% heard that word before. All right. Well, I guess we got... I mean, we got through pretty much most of the passage. But technically, Brekka is pool, so it's inferred that he is the pool that will give blessings all... Yeah, exactly. The Hebrew's weird. Oh, yeah, and then I guess we just got this last little couple verses that are odd. We just find out when Esau was 40, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basema, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they made life bitter for Isaac and Rebekah. That's all we know. We just know that apparently Esau married these two girls, and these two girls made Isaac and Rebekah's lives miserable, and that's how the chapter ends. I don't know why these two verses are here, just kind of out of nowhere. But anyways, I guess that's how it ends. But yeah, I mean, Hittites... Dude, the Hittites, I feel like, just caused so many like, throughout Genesis and Exodus, I feel like the Hittites are just nothing but trouble. Like, they literally get thousands of people killed in or is it Exodus, or is it... I think it's actually later on. It might be in Numbers, maybe, where God just, like, straight up kills a whole bunch of dudes because of the Hittites. Because the Israelites were marrying the Hittite women. Or no, it wasn't the Hittite women, it was the Midianite women. Never mind. Who are the Hittites? Wait, the Midianites were the ones that the Israelites were marrying when Moses was in command of them. Why am I not remembering who the Hittites are? Anyways, the Midianites were a huge problem for Israel because they got like a whole bunch of people dead. Well, anyways, so we got here with this passage. We got through the end of it. Next week on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about the inheritance, the blessing from Isaac to Jacob. So that's going to be pretty cool. And then we get to talk about like Esau losing the blessing and, you know, Jacob escaping because so it's the whole story with the inheritance and Jacob taking the inheritance. It's gonna be a longer chapter, honestly. Hopefully Evan can join us for that one. But yeah, so this was Genesis 26 today. Last time we're gonna really hear about Isaac for a while. I mean, Isaac's gonna be in the next chapter, but Jacob's kind of the main like person that we're following moving forward. I think tonight was pretty good. I guess we got definitely a couple more things we got to do. We got to do the prayer, we got to do prayer requests, and then we got to go raid somebody. So hopefully we can stick by for that. But yeah, chat, you guys have any prayer requests or anybody in Discord too? I see we have a whole bunch of people in Discord that are just listening as well. But yeah, Discord people, chat people, do you guys have any prayer requests that you guys want us to know about that all of us can be praying for?
I don't. I'm tired, so I'm going to bed. So good night, y'all.
Okay, yeah, dude, Cole, thank you so much for stopping by, man. I appreciate you a ton. You're awesome, man. Hey, have a good one.
Night. Hey.
Okay, so we do have a couple prayer requests on our end. Obviously, be praying for Evan. Evan still has... well, I'm assuming you guys know who Evan is. He's usually the other guy here talking on Wednesdays who brings all the lesson notes and everything. Yeah, please be praying for Evan right now as he is still... well, first of all, he still has the medical things that he's going through, and I know that's kind of a big deal. I don't really want to share a lot more about it because it's really personal, and honestly, I don't really know that much more anyways. But yeah, please be praying for Evan. It's not like a life or death thing, but I know it's definitely something that is on his mind and is causing him a bit of pain. So be praying for Evan and that. And also be praying for Evan right now as well as he's finishing up college. He's been working on this degree for a while, and I know it's had a lot of ups and downs. He's moved a lot, like from PA to Florida, back and forth, and I know it's been rough on him. So I know he's going to be graduating soon, and he's got a couple more weeks left as he finishes up his last couple classes, so be praying for him on that as well. Also, I mean, I know there's a lot of people doing school stuff, right? Like, I got seminary stuff right now. Me and a couple of my friends are struggling through Hebrew this summer. I mean, it's not a super big deal right now, but I guess if you need to or want to, pray for us as we try and do this. And also, I'll just give it a quick shout out. Me and my friends, we last Christmas did an outreach project to the less fortunate in our nearby city, and we're going to be doing the same thing this year at Christmas. So there's two things you can be doing for that. Be praying for it. Be praying that as we prepare to try and raise money, and as we try to get a bunch of clothes and goods and food, that we would be able to get all of that and be able to plan out being able to do the outreach project well. So please be praying for all of that as we try to get all of that together. And also, if you guys do want to, we're trying to actually raise money for that right now. If you can see in the top right corner, we have a donation goal. We're trying to raise money for this outreach project specifically. Any money that is donated will go directly to helping feed the less fortunate near where we live as we go into the end of this year. So if you have any time to pray for that, or if you want to donate to it, it's a really good cause, and we're trying to raise as much money for it as we possibly can. So I wanted to throw that out there real quick at the end here as well. But yeah, I can pray us out real quick, and then we'll go find somebody to go show some love. So right now, Discord people as well, if you're here and you want to join in on the raid, now's the time to do so. But yeah, Father in heaven, thank you so much for today. I thank you for gathering all of us here, that we might be able to delve into your word and to talk more about you. And I pray that each and every single one of us here learned a little bit more about you and who you are. And I pray that each of us will be able to go into the rest of our week with you as the first thought on our mind every single day. First and last thought on our mind every single day. I pray that we would be able to serve you in our word and our deed every single day. I pray that we would be a light to the world around us, that we might be the light on the hill and the salt of the earth that you have called us to be, that the world would know us by our love, that we would be able to further your kingdom here on earth, and that you would use us as your tools to do so. And I pray that that is exactly what me and my friends are doing here on this Twitch channel, as we have felt you calling us to do this, and we pray that we are being faithful in that. Pray that you have used us as your tools to be able to speak to your people, and that in return we have also been sanctified as a result. And I pray that you continue to work on each of our hearts every single day, that we might come closer to you and what your vision for each of us is. Pray for Evan right now as he's going through a lot. Our brother in Christ that really needs prayer right now. And I pray for all of these other people who are hurting, all of the unsaid prayer requests right now in our chat and in our Discord. And I thank you so much for all of the amazing people who stopped by today. Pray all these things in your name. Amen. All right, so now, as God's beloved people, I want to bless you and send you back out into the world. I pray that each person here would be able to remember that even though we are God's people of the church, that those around us in this hurting and broken world are also in great and dire need of the promise God gave to Abraham and to his descendants. The promise that God gave to Abraham and to his descendants to bless the whole world still applies to us as Christians of the church today. And let us be that blessing as we go forth. Let us be the blessing to the world that God promised. That as we go out into the world, that we would be the blessing to all of them. And here we go. Let's go find a quick channel to raid. And if you're new here, if you don't know what we do, well, first of all, let me do this. Well, actually, it's already in there. If you're new to the channel, what we do is every single time we end a stream, we go and we find somebody else. We sort low to high. We find another channel out there with the Christian tag who is streaming, and we just go into their chat. We let them know that God loves them, that they're very amazing people, and we just, you know, I pray that you guys show them the same love that you show me every time that you stop by this chat. Here we go. This is this guy's actually talking right now, Ezra chapters 7 and 8, the return of the captives under Ezra. You guys want to go raid this guy? I mean, this guy's looks like he's doing the same thing that we are, just a little Bible study type stream. Actually, this might be like a church service. Yeah, Calvary Chapel. You guys want to do that one, or do you guys want to find like somebody else who's like a specific streamer? Because this looks more like a church. We could go raid the church, or we could go raid a specific. Actually, yeah, maybe not the church. I mean, nothing against the church, but let's go find. They might not actually see us raiding them, so let's go raid somebody who might actually see us stop by. Here we go. Diablo 4. Trying not to die. Jesus reigns. Jesus loves you. Remember that. Let's go do this guy. I've heard really good things about Diablo 4. I need to maybe play it at some point. But yeah, let's go do this guy real quick. So yeah, like I said, guys, if you're able to, you know, come raid us with this guy, put in his chat that God loves them, that, you know, they're amazing and wonderfully made human beings, and just show them a good time. You know, show them the same good time that you showed me tonight, guys. So I'll start up the raid real quick here. 1 second. Oh, wait. Typed it in wrong. Here we go. Alright, guys. Thank you guys all for showing up and talking. I appreciate all of you guys very much. Every single one of you. You're all amazing human beings created by God. And hopefully I will see you guys next week whenever we, I believe Tuesday we're going to be playing a little bit more Terraria. And we are also going to be next week on Wednesday talking about Genesis 27 with the birthright and all of that good stuff. So I'd love to see you guys there. And if not, I will be in the Discord talking with you guys whenever you guys want to talk. So I'll see you guys on the other side. Thank you guys for showing up. I appreciate all of you.